Welcome everybody to Grizz Tizz from way downtown, whether you're listening via Audioboo, Stitcher, SEN Audio, or if you've downloaded the show on iTunes. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm Liam Santa Maria.
And I'm Tommy Greer.
And together we are Grizz Tizz. As always, we've got our man BT in the box with the drops.
Quit your jibber jabber. You ain't hurt. You pathetic.
I like that.
Mr. T to
Mr.
LeBron
T.
after game one.
Snickers.
Gee whiz, BT. That's harsh. Now, felt a slightly different feel to the studio tonight.
It's all happening in here. It's
You've
all
showered?
going on.
It is all happening. Yeah, no, we've got the fellas from H2 Productions in here filming the show. And look, a bit going on.
Bitco, you spent the last sort of hour hogging as much airtime as you can, just sort of soaking it all in.
Making friends with the camera, Grizzleman. Never been shy of the camera, but
The trimmer's working well too.
Yeah.
That's very manicured.
Thank
He's still
you.
ahead in the
Yeah.
beard
Thank you.
stakes,
Thanks
but
for that, BT.
you're a clear number two.
Oh, thank you,
So
BT.
basically, you're just not doing very
Actually,
well.
you're in the same spot.
That's right.
As am I.
I didn't get to the beard today because, well, Game 3 of the NBA Finals, gentlemen, and the San Antonio Spurs, well, they just ran away with it early doors, Grizzle man. They ended up winning 111-92 to take Game 3 and a 2-1 series lead. But boy, oh boy, the Spurs were amazing to begin this game.
Absolutely. I mean, firing on all cylinders sells it short. They went for 71 points at 76% from the floor in the first half. I mean, these guys were lighting it up to a level. I mean, it hasn't been done in the NBA Finals in the history of the NBA.
Yes.
That's the fact, Jack.
Early
Am I
one.
going to get it?
Early.
Am I going to get it? You're
You've
gonna
got
give
it.
That's a very early stat of the pod.
Even Popovich said after that first half performance, he'll never do that again. Neither will any team, really.
Well, they were 7 from 10 from downtown. At one stage during that quarter, they were 19 from 21 from the floor. Now, the Heat themselves weren't playing too bad offensively, and I guess the question, Grizzle man, is, I mean, should we be looking at the Miami defense for looking for an explanation as to, why San Antonio were lights out from the floor, or, they just catch fire and is it more about what San Antonio was doing?
Well, I think it started as a one thing and moved into the other. It started with the Heat's defense. I mean, it was absolutely awful. A lot of the players have come out and sort of openly spoke about the sort of lackluster effort of their defense. Chalmers has come out and said things. LeBron saying that the effort simply wasn't there, and that led to San Antonio getting a lot of shots on the rim early, a lot of layups. Danny Green, Kawhi taking advantage at the rim.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll know, like, in your playing history, once you get a few of those cheap ones on the rim,
Yep.
all of a sudden that jumper starts to fall, and it turns out to be white hot.
In a sense, it was almost the mirror image of Game 2, where LeBron sort of approached the game, that way
Exactly.
in Game 2. He said, I'm gonna get myself established at the rim, and he was attacking at every opportunity. And then he caught fire, got his juices flowing, and was impossible to stop from that point on. And like you say, that's what the Spurs were doing early on in Game 3, ripping it through. And it's sort of unusual to see Danny Green attack the rim in that way. And yet that's what he was doing. They went inside, came outside. He was super active early, Danny Green, at both ends. Those 2 steals he got in transition, where he was sort of a bit active on that sort of kick ahead handoff action that
between Chalmers and Wade.
Yeah, he was just all over it early doors, as was Kawhi Leonard. Now, he had a career game. After a couple of disappointing Game 1 and Game 2, a little bit disappointing from his perspective after being amazing in last year's finals. Grizzleman, I mean, Kawhi Leonard was just on another planet today.
He was, and like you said, I mean, possibly a career game, probably the best game he's ever played. He went for 29 points on 10 of 13 shooting, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. I mean, he was everywhere.
Following Game 2, and I was writing some things for the site, downtownball.net, and I was one of the things I was thinking, I didn't actually put it down. One of the things I was thinking of, the question that I was going to ask was, who's going to step up first in this series? Is it going to be Kawhi Leonard, or is it going to be Mario Chalmers? 2 guys who are fairly kind of key for their team, who hadn't sort of got rolling so far in the playoffs. Well, we got the answer.
Fair to say it's not Mario Chalmers.
And we're going to get to Super Mario a little bit later, who is struggling a little bit. But geez, Kawhi Leonard answered that question today. He was super aggressive early on, Grizzle man. And, where did this come from?
Well, I think a lot of it came from a talk that Pop had with Kawhi leading into this game. Doris Burke, she actually asked Pop what was in that conversation. What were you talking about that inspired Kawhi to come out and play that sort of level, and which Pop responded in his usual. It's all in the, it's a family issue. I'm not going to give you any of that sort of stuff.
Family business.
But what would you think, Tizz? What do you think Pop was banging on about?
Well, he was clearly telling him to be more aggressive. We need you to be more aggressive, and you could just sense that from the way he came out this morning, in this morning's game, or this morning our time. But we've got a little bit of audio about what Pop talking about Kawhi after the game.
Well, we just wanted to be who he's been the whole year, in the regular season and in the playoffs. And I think the foul situations the first two games really, he overreacted to them and became very cautious. And he doesn't play like that. He's got to be real active at both ends. And so he figured it out.
And you could kind of get that feeling from watching Kawhi in the first couple of games where he was a little hesitant. A couple of times he was open on the perimeter and he refused to pull the trigger, and he'd sort of put it to the floor and wasn't really making a lot happen. And look, that wasn't an issue today.
Yeah, and the reason for that is, the reason he gets so hesitant is because all the hype and all the talk around San Antonio on the Heat obtaining to him is around guarding LeBron. So he gets those 3 fouls early in the game and he's like, well, I'm letting my team down. My job is, I'm here to stop LeBron. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so you can really see how that could get into his psyche, and then sort of Pop pulling him aside and saying, do you know what? We need you on both ends of the floor. The way you can diffuse LeBron is by attacking the rim, making him play both ends. I mean, it just makes sense.
It was a bit of a Kawhi we hadn't really seen before. What we saw of him today, I read somewhere someone saying it was a bit of a window into kind of when he's the franchise player. Where he was kind of spinning and coming off the dribble, pulling up. Certainly, not hesitant to pull the trigger. And like you said, 29 points, career high. And what a time to bring it out too. With the series tied 1-1, and the response to what LeBron delivered the other day. The Kawhi-LeBron matchup, Grizzle, man, it was we talked about it in detail in the lead-up. BT picked Kawhi as a potential Finals MVP because he said that the LeBron-Kawhi matchup was the key to the series.
Well, he would have been last series, wouldn't he? If the Spurs had won, and for all money they would have in Game 6.
BT doesn't get much wrong. If BT's sort of betting or there's something on the line, BT will generally come through with the goods.
Well, in this case,
I'm taking you down to the tab tomorrow. You and me are going on a little day trip. We're going to get down there, spend some money.
Okay. We're spending your money.
Grizzleman, Kawhi on LeBron.
Yeah.
How's he done so far?
Well, I mean, leading into Game 3, I saw a stat that LeBron was scoring at 62% while Kawhi was guarding him.
Yeah.
I mean, that would lead you to believe that Kawhi is not doing a very good job. He's been in foul trouble early, in the first 2 games especially. I mean, I think that you can really sort of get lost in stats like that, but... for me, I think he's doing as good a job as you can do. I spoke, on the podcast before this series saying that, that there's not a lot you can do about LeBron. I know Kawhi was touted to be this, the LeBron stopper, but the fact is there's no such thing as we saw in Game 2. And I think he's doing as good a job as he possibly can do.
Yep.
But even that's not good enough.
And look, BT and I were talking a little bit before we came on on air. That about how so much of this series is about LeBron.
It is,
and about the
legacy.
The key takeaway from that Game 1. Spurs were fantastic in that fourth quarter, 14 of 16 from the field. That's fantastic. For me, the key story to that was that LeBron wasn't able to play those crucial minutes down the stretch. It was a one-basket game, and in the end, they ran away by 15 points. And I feel a lot of that was the fact that LeBron wasn't on the floor. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what kind of impact he could have had because he wasn't out there. Then in Game 2, I mean, he was near on unstoppable. Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were talking on the telecast about how Kawhi was right there on almost every one of those shots in that third quarter.
Even that first one that got LeBron going was a step back from the foul line, fading away, overhand.
And, and someone else said to me the other day, look, when LeBron starts hitting from the perimeter like that, I mean, we might as well all just go home.
Home time. And Miami fans normally do.
Yeah. And even today, LeBron shot over 50%.
Yeah.
And on the series so far is 32 from 53. And I guess it's that mentality of what we just got to try and limit him where we can. I thought Kawhi was really impressive defensively on LeBron today in terms of just sort of making things tough, making it tough for him to get those post catches and, really contesting everything as much as he could.
Yeah, I agree a little bit, but for me, it's LeBron limiting himself. I mean, he shot a great clip again today. I mean, he needs to shoot it more. I think that it needs to be like that Jordan series where he asked his dad, do I need to lead or get my teammates involved? And his dad said, you got to be a leader.
Yeah.
That's what LeBron needs. Like, he needs to have that conversation with someone where he comes out and he's like, well, if we're going to win this thing, I'm going to have to shoot it 30 times.
Yep.
And that's the way we're going to get it done.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier, Grizzleman, about the way that the Heat sort of got off and going at the start of the game. So a little bit of lack of urgency.
Yeah.
How is that possible? I mean, it's game 3 of the NBA Finals. They've come home. They're playing in front of a packed-out arena on South Beach. How do you come out lacking urgency?
Mate, I cannot answer that question. I don't think any of those guys could too. But I mean, that's professional sport. I mean, how can Indiana go from being the best team in the Eastern Conference and, they're making me come out and call them as the best team in the East and then fall apart the way they did, It's ultimately, mostly the sort of same roster. It's, some of these things you can't gauge. There's not a stat to sort of prove anyone's point. But, look, I mean, it's something that's definitely got to be fixed before they show up for Game 4.
Well, no, I guess another question I had just about the Heat and the way they went about it today, was there not enough Bosh involved offensively? He's been outstanding. He was outstanding in the first couple of games. Certainly at the start of Game 2, when LeBron was attacking the rim, but predominantly coming up empty.
Yep.
Bosh was the one kind of keeping the scoreboard ticking over, like Dwayne Wade was during the third quarter and early in the fourth today. But Bosh, I mean, 12 touches, only 4 shots from the field today. How do they get him more involved offensively?
They've got to move the ball more. I mean, it was truly getting stuck a lot today. There was a lot of one-on-one basketball. For me, especially when Wade had it. Just trying to break his man down today. 12 touches in 34 minutes for your third best option simply isn't enough. I mean, they've got to get him the ball more. And for me, that's just ball movement.
We talk about how good LeBron was in Game 2, but Bosh made some big plays. Crossover, gets past Duncan, bounce pass into Wade.
For the win.
That's for the win.
Well, the triple that he hit in the corner, the crossover and the dish to Wade. But I'm talking about Bosh in the first quarter of Game 2.
The and-one dunk.
The and-one dunk, the little sort of 15, 17 footers he was knocking down. He was fantastic. And that Duncan on Bosh matchup has been an issue for the Spurs because of the way Bosh can space the floor. The perfect example was that possession with a minute and a half to go when LeBron was able to draw Duncan to the rim and find Bosh in the corner. It's hard because Miami, over the course of the playoffs, there's been times, especially in that Indiana series, when Bosh became almost solely a jump shooter.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. Like, Bosh needs to be on the rim as well. And he had a good mix of that in Game 2. And he just wasn't involved enough.
And it all ties in.
Game 3.
It all ties in, doesn't it? I mean, the Spurs have a great game today because they're attacking the rim early. LeBron had a great game in Game 2 because he attacked the rim early.
Yep.
When Bosh, for me, comes out and his first shot isn't a sort of step back jump shot, when his first shot is something at the rim, or like one of those ones that came off the down screen and attacked off the dribble like a 3-man to the rim. I mean, that's a good sign for Miami when you see stuff like that.
Now, it's time, fellas, just to get a little romantic because it's time to talk about the Spurs offense.
Do you need some romantic?
Can you give me some? Can you give me some like Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, something like that? Because
is that what you play when you get romantic? A little Celine Dion.
Hey, don't hate. Don't hate. Because my goodness, they are just beautiful to watch when they're moving the ball.
Is this your favourite Mariah song?
It's one of.
You already know what it is.
I do.
5 seconds into the song, you know.
I do.
What is it?
Dream Lover, I think.
That is correct.
Yeah. But you're lucky you didn't play the Spice Girls, or I might just actually be dancing at this point. But with the cameras on, that's probably not a good idea. Grizzleman, when the Spurs move the ball, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. And the way they were playing in the first half was, just perfect example of that. And you know, it's just like just a lovely thing to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually saw
I didn't want to take it from you.
Yeah, a tweet by Ira Winderman. He's the beat writer for Miami. And I was reading something post game today, and I thought, like that YouTube clip that was just circulating, just went viral on the internet, the tribute to the San Antonio Spurs. That's how I felt when I read this by him. The philosophy behind the Spurs scheme is that there is always a better shot when the offense is approached with persistence, perseverance, and precision. And for me,
Triple P.
The triple P's, baby.
The triple P attack.
Every time it's PPP. I mean, that's just it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yep.
It's sacrificing that pretty good shot for the perfect shot.
Yeah, I guess my question about that is that there's always a better shot so when do you shoot it? If there's always a better shot, I mean, you got to take it at some point. But they do always look to find that next guy, even when they're at the rim. Got Boris Diaw and Thiago Splitter, perfect examples. That they're always looking for that one extra pass around the back.
It's such a luxury. I mean, I was going through that list today, and I know it's been analysed by every man and the dog, but the amount of quality passes they have on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, they're three big guys, Diaw, Duncan, and Splitter, all pass the ball between each other and kick it out to the wings better than any other three bigs in the NBA. I mean, the three of them are probably top 5 guys in the NBA with that attribute. And then you add to that a Tony Parker, Patty Mills, Manu being able to create. I mean, every player pretty much out there, besides probably Danny Green, is a creator.
I don't know whether I'm on an island with this. And this is just something that I'm seeing with my own eyes. I feel
like you're going to disagree with some gold I just spilt.
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, as Bill Simmons would say, unpopular opinion alert.
Okay.
But in terms of the Spurs and their beautiful ball movement, is it just me, or is it better when Parker and Duncan aren't on the floor?
Whoa. That's a big call.
This is a little bombshell, just quietly. I mean, I just over watching through the playoffs this year, and
you're basically saying that they're a better team without those two.
No, I'm not. But what I am saying is, if the ball does ever stick in the Spurs offense,
it's with those
like what Pop spoke about in the post game presser after game 2.
Here's the thing about that:
it's Parker on the dribble,
here's the thing.
or it's Timmy D in the block. Now, Parker on the dribble and Timmy D on the block.
Pretty good options.
But right now we're watching one of the all-time great offensive performances that a team's put on in the NBA playoffs, especially in the finals. And a lot of it has to do with their ball movement. And all I'm saying is that just from watching it, the eye test says that ball movement is better when it's predominantly the bench unit.
Yeah.
And it's Patty and it's Bellinelli and it's Kawhi and Splitter and Diaw and TD and Parker on the pond.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but here's the thing: the Spurs are outstanding because everyone understands their role.
Yeah,
and you've got to allow your franchise guys. So I'm Timmy Duncan, Parker. And I feel this way about the Heat as well. Like with LeBron, like I hate it when it sticks in Wade's hand, but it can stick in LeBron's as long as he wants. You got to allow that extra rope for your franchise guys, and everyone on the team understands that, and that's why it all just fits together like a perfect puzzle.
Did you guys see in the telecast today, towards the end of the game, when Parker came out and he was out for good? And Pop had a little kind of cuddle with him on the sidelines, a little bit of a chit-chat.
Talk about romantic. And that was romantic.
Remarkably, we got the audio of that chat, which was just a real sort of fly-on-the-wall moment. And Pop was sort of saying to him, look, great leadership today. He said, you didn't have 30, but you were outstanding. I don't know.
Do you reckon that had something to do with when he copped one? I forget who hit him now.
Chalmers,
yeah. Game 2, and he came out, and he said to Pop, no, I'm right to go back out on. And he wouldn't let me back on the court.
Feel like
that was a bit of a flop, by the way.
Oh, really? I thought
he exaggerated that.
No, wow. I mean, like a soccer-style line on the ground.
Well, not
accentuating
he was
the pain.
hit. He was definitely hit. But he came off, and he wanted to go straight back on. And Pop was like, no, we got Patty out there.
Well,
I feel there was a bit of tension.
I feel like there is a little bit of tension, and I feel like that moment towards the end of this game was actually kind of, I mean, obviously it was coaching, but it was like coaching in inverted commas.
Yeah.
In that it was
massaging the ego.
It was ego stroking.
Yeah.
Because I reckon there were some periods of time in today's game where Parker was sitting on the pine, watching the Spurs play the best periods that they were playing throughout the game. And he had, and it was one of those moments where it was like, look, you've got to,
let it go.
You got to let it go. Yeah. You weren't our best player today. The box score shows it, but we're going to need you. And he sort of hit it by saying, "Oh, great leadership, you were fantastic." Da da da.
We've seen this.
Look,
we've seen this in the playoffs already.
Yes.
John Moore with Washington, with the professor comes out. They go through their best stretch. So it all comes down to Tony's ego.
Paddy love just coming out in me or so? Is it
I think it's a little bit, because there's a bit of what you're saying is definitely true, but there's also a bit of that is actually a fact.
Well, let's get on to Paddy, because Paddy Thrills, your man Paddy Stacks.
Yeah.
Was pretty huge at points today. He had a couple of big moments where he knocked down the triple in transition, where he took the charge and gave it a little fist pump. Just outstanding to see. And we even had Bainesy, Aaron Baines, come check in. And did you see he just catch and shoot from 17, 18 feet? Knocked that down. The commentators gave him the from New Zealand, Aaron Baines, which was a bit disappointing.
Always from New Zealand.
Born in New Zealand, but he's an Australian boomer. Because, man, this is the big stage. These are the bright lights, and Paddy Mills has come to the party.
He is not shy, is he?
No.
Like, he is not. He's pulling up in transition for triples, like he's playing back here at the Tigers. Yeah. He doesn't care, mate.
And Jeff Van Gundy is loving every minute of it.
Give me Paddy Mills anytime, anywhere. Shooting, hustle, team first attitude.
Mills just 25 years old. They list him as 6 feet tall. Don't know if he's that tall.
5'8".
A bit harsh. A bit harsh on Paddy Stacks.
I know, but I just love hearing that. Like Jeff Van Gundy, one of my favourite commentators, talking about Paddy. I'm definitely getting that soundbite, BT, and I'm going to switch my name in and just use that as my phone answering service.
All right. Now, just to digress just a moment, go back to something we were talking about earlier about what went wrong for the Heat today. A question that came up in the post-game presser. I don't know what this guy was on, but can you imagine? Can you imagine the big kahunas to ask LeBron James and Dwayne Wade the question that this guy goes on to ask? Now, just when you're listening, try to take in the level of awkwardness in terms of awkward silence.
Really soak it up.
Just really soak up.
Just immerse yourself in it. Just marinate in it a little bit.
In the awkward silence that takes place after this question.
This is for both of you. You have a great defense. They're averaging 104 points a game. You have a lot of offense. You haven't broke 100 yet. Is the problem your lackluster defense, or is it the problems you're having offensively? Lackluster offense.
The problem is we're down 2-1. That's the problem. We got to figure out how to tie it up.
Oh man, I've heard that silence before. When I told my old man I crashed his car when I was 16. I've heard it. I've heard that silence. That was awful.
How do you go about asking that?
Does he have a chemical imbalance? Is that guy okay? Is he fully qualified to be asking these questions?
They look at each other.
He starts laughing.
He starts laughing, and he's just like, you know what? You can handle this one. I don't even want a part of that.
Oh man!
Can you imagine how Pop would have responded to that?
Pop would have fought him.
He might have just shot that guy right there and then. BT, let's break this up a little with some Dear Grizz and Tizz.
Dear Grizz and Tizz.
The first question comes from me.
Oh,
what?
Yes,
that's not allowed.
And I know it's Dear Grizz and Tizz, but B Cinnamon.
Right.
Oh.
The question from me to you. I heard a little whisper along the grapevine that you've been up to some very interesting sort of socialising sort of experiences of late. What's going on with the speed dating? Am I right?
Yeah. I've heard that silence before, BT.
I got a scoop
Wait
here.
on, D-Wade, want to come in and answer? I went speed dating with a mate a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, we've got an awkward situation coming up because he got a match with someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she had a friend there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't matched with the friend. We didn't match, that's fine.
Okay.
And now he wants me to go play pool with him on Saturday night. So I'm
like a double date.
Yeah, I'm the wingman.
and she's gonna the non-match is gonna be there as well.
Yeah, it could be completely awkward for me.
Well, how upset are you about it? Is this a quality, this is going to be okay because she's actually a bit of a star?
Right. Was the non-match from her perspective or from yours?
D-Wade, do you want to...
There's no Dwayne Wade to pump it off.
Were you like, I'm just trying to imagine.
I have so many questions.
I know. Were you just
ask.
like... Is it just one of those like table to table?
Yeah.
Like you switch, and the boys stand up and switch tables.
Yep.
So were you using the same gags table to table, just seeing what stuck?
I had a game plan for sure. Yeah. I had a couple of questions worked out.
So all right, let's
do it.
I'm the one. I'm like 13. I'm number 13 or whatever, and you roll up to me. You've had a couple of chats, but 12 chats or so before you get to me, and you roll up, B Cinnamon, and you sit down. And just hit me with it. Go ahead.
Do you want Mariah back? I've got to set a mood.
Hi, I'm Brett Thomas from SEN.
I normally come up with my iPhone. I play Mariah for them, which is great for you.
So how does it play out?
Yeah, let's do it.
I just say, hey, how's your night going?
Oh, pretty good. Just
What's wrong with your voice, by the way?
Oh no, look, pretty good. Nice to meet you.
Cool.
That's what you would say?
Well, I'm not me. It's about Cinnamon.
Yeah, this is really awkward. This speed dating. All right, I'm going to move on. Number 4.
Oh,
Tommy.
Wow.
Hey,
no, but so you can't move on right until the time's up, right?
Nah, that's right.
How long is the time?
Can be awkward. 4 minutes.
No, but what we're trying to get at here, BT, is what's your go-to? What do you?
Just the usual stuff.
Like, what do you do?
I asked them if I could grant you a wish to let you do whatever you want for the rest of your life, what would you do?
You give him the genie. Really? Give him the genie question.
You get one wish. You just rubbed the.
Can I wish for more wishes, BT?
So you seriously, you sit down and you say, "Look, you rubbed the lantern. Here I am."
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
That's
wow-wee.
That's hell.
All right, look, let's get plenty.
I did well, by the way. I got a few matches.
Oh,
okay.
So
BT, I'd have matched
before
with
you criticise, hey,
I'd have matched with you.
Thank you. I wouldn't. 13. That's a no for
14,
me.
no connection.
14.
Fellas, we do have some correspondence. This one comes in from @Hendo Hoops. It's a two-parter.
Ooh,
first one.
Big boy.
How do you rate Miami's chances of getting one more good game out of Mario Chalmers?
Ooh.
Grizzle man, I know you're all over Chalmers. Just hasn't quite. Is he unfit? Just maybe another unpopular opinion alert.
I think that's a cop out.
Looking at Mario Chalmers and his physique right now, I see Patty Mills last year.
He's struggled. All series. He was 0 of 5 today. The real issue is they're not getting much from Cole either. He was 3 of 9. And their point guard play is just really sucky right now.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost to the point where Spoelstra needs to switch things up and just leave the ball in Dwayne Wayne's hand or leave it in LeBron's hands and try and mix it up.
And look, he's certainly already started to do that. He did that in Game 2 for a little bit, which was amazing to be pulling out in Game 2. Running out there without a point guard, something they'd done, I think it was about 9 minutes in total over the regular season. They ran out there without a point guard, and they did it again for stretches today in Game 3. Now, is this something? I mean, you mentioned it there. Is it legitimately something you can? I mean, is it a starting 5 change-up type of move he could be looking towards?
I don't think it's going to happen Game 4, but maybe sort of Game 5 onwards. I think it really is a possibility. I mean. They're truly giving it's both ends of the floor that they're not performing. I mean, Tony Parker, his eyes are lighting up when Chalmers is guarding him. I mean, he goes into ultra aggressive mode whenever it happens. And I mean, he's a liability on both ends at the moment.
And certainly, Dwayne Wade had some things to say about it post game. He said, "Mario is a big piece of what we do. And we're missing that piece right now," which I thought was an interesting comment because he's flat out saying, "Look, he's just non-existent out there right now."
But how much of that is their responsibility to get him involved in the game? You talked about LeBron being a leader. Dwayne Wade said when LeBron is taking over a game, we all have to be ready.
There is a bit of that, but with a point guard, it's a little bit different. I mean, he's got the ball a bit, but
not a lot because you've got Wade
in Heat offense,
and James
certainly LeBron's dime numbers have been lower so far this series than usual. Maybe it's an element of that. Mario's looking across the locker room and say, "Hey, I mean,
maybe it's a little bit to the fact that he can't knock one down." I mean, he was 0 of 5 today. I mean, if you go 0 of 5, you're probably going to get a little gun shy.
I mean, on the flip side, we were talking about Chris Bosh earlier. He was 4 of 4 today. And if you're shooting 100%, and
shoot
you're not
it more.
shooting enough.
Get them more, yeah.
That's my thing with LeBron.
So anyway, the answer: how do you rate Miami's chances? They're going to need him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're going to need him. I spoke before, Kawhi Leonard or Chalmers, who's going to step up first? Kawhi sort of gave the answer to that today. The Heat are going to, they're going to start to turn their attention towards him in the locker room and say, look, Mario, LeBron is going to say, I'm playing hard out here. Dwayne Wade's playing well. Chris Bosh is playing well. They're going to need. Rashard Lewis.
Well, you better pick it up quick.
Playing really well.
Chalmers better pick it up quick because otherwise, I think Miami might take a extra air conditioning unit to Texas next time instead of him.
But is all Mario
He's
doing is just standing out on an island? Don't you think their roles are a little bit confused? If he's not bringing the ball up the court and distributing, and he's not defending Parker, what is he doing? He's just standing out on an island, hoping for an opportunity to knock down a three.
Well, it's not an unusual situation for him to be in because the ball is usually in LeBron and Wade's hands, and he does play that
tough,
kind of quasi-shooting guard role often, but it does make it tough.
Yeah.
And, they were talking, certainly Super Mario doesn't lack for any confidence. Doris Burke spoke in today's broadcast about how she said to him, how's the confidence going? It's been a couple of, games where you haven't really been all over, and he said, Doris, you know me better than that. And he's known for just being ultra confident. But that's 3 games in a row now.
Yeah.
And certainly, BT, you tweeted something today about the comparison between Chalmers and Patty Mills.
Yeah, well, Patty's on fire right now. I reckon Spo would swap them if he could.
Yeah.
Take Patty over Mario the way they're playing.
And so
just
look,
the
he's
energy.
have to
You
turn
spoke
it
about energy. Patty's bringing that. He's shooting well from limited opportunities. But the energy he's
am
got.
I way off the mark with Chalmers not looking like as cut as
I
as
see
he could?
what you did there. You moved it into the Patty thing, and that's clever.
Thank you. All right, look, part 2 of that question is actually about Patty Thrills. Hendo asks, how do you rate Patty's improvement in defending the pick and roll during the finals? Now, look, I'll take this to begin with. BT was just talking about Patty's energy. I think first and foremost it starts there. And look, his energy offensively, that's always been there. He gets them up and he gets them up quick. But defensively this year, certainly right now in the finals, he's all over it. Very active, 94 feet of defense when he checks into the game. And look, on the pick and rolls, which is a large part of defending the Miami offense, he's his body up, fighting over the pick. He's doing a really terrific job, and he's throughout the course of the playoffs, he's been on a short leash, a fairly short leash with Popovich in terms of when he comes on, and that leash has been at the defensive end. He had a situation in Game 1 when he came out and he was on Ray Allen for a possession. Tried to cheat under the screen.
Slipped.
Ray Allen, he got him on the kickback, stuck the 3, and Patty found himself 7 seats deep before about 30.
Waving towels.
Back to where he used to be, but he certainly came out today and he looked fantastic on the defensive end, running with the example that was set early doors by the starters, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, those fellas. Look, it's great to see him defending and playing so well.
And that's the thing with guys who don't have great defensive reputations. You can always do what Patty's doing, like putting in that 100% effort, that dive on the loose ball he had and then Manu got the dunk at the end of the game. That sort of stuff, anyone can bring that. You don't have to be a good defender to bring that sort of stuff. And so for guys who don't have that defensive rep, that's what you want out of him. Patty's bringing that every game.
All right, well, Grizzle Man, let's turn our attention towards Game 4. Tips off Friday morning, Australian time. What do the Heat need to do to fix up before Game 4? Do they just go into the locker room and say, fellas, they put on an all-time ridiculous offensive performance. We were, defensively, all right, we got to pick a few things up, but we were right there. Or do they actually need to make some wholesale changes?
I don't think you can just dismiss it. It's the finals. Like, this is it. I think that you've got to adjust. You've got to make some reads on what's going on out there. Just from that last game, the 3 things that I identified that need to be fixed are the turnovers. LeBron spoke about it. He knows he had too many. He threw 7, Wade threw 5. 20 as a team, I think the total was. That's just too many in a finals game. The ball movement, Bosh getting 12 touches for a whole game is your 3rd biggest option. Simply not enough. They've got to find a way to get him more involved. And just the urgency. Like you said, there's no excuse for coming out as flat as they did. Dwayne Wade was nowhere to be seen in the first half. Like, he was still having a coffee out the back getting ready. They need, that's good. They've got to come out on point game one. Final home game of this little 2-game stint. They've got to lock this one up.
Now, a lot of talk after game 2 about, the way the Heat responded, about the fact that they're on a 13-game streak, 13-0 in terms of playoff wins after a loss. Dates back to the 2012 playoffs when they lost a few in a row to Boston before bouncing back and getting over the top of them. Since then, 13-0 after a loss, which is a really impressive statistic when you talk about sort of intestinal fortitude. Are you and look, I wrote on the site just the other day, so much of that has to do with not just the way that the way LeBron responds after something negative, whether it's the media, something negative, the cramp game, whether it's a beatdown like they copped today. So the expectation is that they're going to respond. Is it going to be LeBron? Is he going to lead the way?
Absolutely, he's going to lead the way. You can set your watch to it. I mean, you truly can.
Yeah.
Whenever LeBron cops a beating like this, or takes on the sort of responsibility himself in the media like he did today, saying he's got to be better, I mean, he's going to come out all guns blazing. That's a sure thing.
I don't know. You said you can't really kind of wipe off game 3. You can't, I agree. But at the same time, the game was a bit of an aberration in terms of the way in which these two teams have played each other over the past few years. Dating back to the 2011 season, this is ridiculous, this one, fellas. Before today's game,
this is in the Big 3 era.
The Heat and Spurs had played 14 games since that time. In those 14 games, the Heat had scored a total of 1,385 points.
Yep.
And the Spurs had scored 1,386.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
If you hadn't have gone so early on the stat of the day, BT, I mean, you'd be whipping that one out right now.
I don't know, Tizzle, because I know that can be a little misleading as well. They've played each other twice this time, and those games were decided by an average margin of 18 points. So it's like you can easily be misled by that. I know they're two great teams and two great franchises, but...
Okay, so are the Spurs a better team? I mean, is that what you're saying?
Well, I picked the Spurs. I think the Spurs are a better team. Yeah.
Because, okay, their first game was about 15-point margin, but that's a 2-point game when LeBron goes out with cramps.
Yeah.
I mean, if he hadn't gone, the expectation is that game probably would have gone down to the wire.
Yeah.
Certainly game 2.
I'm 100% not saying it's not close. There's a couple
of plays in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely close, and I totally agree with the game 1 situation. If LeBron was playing that... I think the Heat probably get across the line in that one, to be honest. So, I mean, it's definitely tight.
All right. So now, I guess the one other thing that's a little bit scary for the Heat is the numbers and the percentages with regards to that Game 3 win. So in series that are 1-1, going into Game 3, that team that wins Game 3 over the course of history, 83% of the time they've gone on to win the series. So,
can I bet on it yet, BT?
I
got heavy money.
The numbers are a little bit worrisome, but I mean, certainly Spoelstra's not going to go into the locker room and write on the, we've got a 17% chance, fellas, from this point out.
Try harder.
Because clearly they win if they can get Game 4. It's a 3-game series from that point.
This is a different setup, though. Make up for the series, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
in terms of the format.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. The 2-2-1-1-1. We're 3 games deep now, and we saw the Spurs take Game 3 on the road. Is that change up of the format of the series? Is it coming into play, or is it too early to judge, how things are playing out?
I think it's probably still a little too early to judge, and I also think these two teams are so great, are so good that I'm not sure it's having that much of an impact.
Yep.
I think that the team that shows up and plays, I mean, this is quite obvious, plays best on the night will win.
Yeah.
I think it's just that tight.
Both teams have shown the ability to win on the other team's floor, and look, certainly the rims weren't an issue for the Spurs in Miami. weren't an issue for the Spurs today. Yeah. All right. Well, BT, what's your call on Game 4? You got the Heat or the Spurs?
Well, these two teams, when they play each other, so hard to predict. If I was Eric Spoelstra, I'd point to the OKC series that the Spurs played.
Yes.
I mean, there were just wild form swings in that, and just stick with him. Danny Green's good for the second half of the first game, not that good in the second game.
Yep.
So just stick with him. We've done this before. So
That was inspirational.
I don't know. I'm just ready to pull out a
head over these netball courts and show them little stuff.
The Heat is still in
netball. I actually think you'd be good at netball.
I'm good at most sports.
Yeah. Touche.
It's hard not to lean. Each game, you go with the team that wins. At the moment, I'm leaning towards the Spurs, but you don't count out LeBron James and the Miami Heat.
Okay, so huge fence sit there. Nothing much
I'm
from
picking
BT.
the Heat with LeBron going bananas, winning by 3 points.
Okay, all right. Well, I've got the Heat as well. You can't I'm not getting betting against the bounce back they've shown over the last few years that they just get that done. Now, before we finish up, thanks for downloading the show on iTunes. If you can give us a rate and review on iTunes and tell a friend and spread the word. Certainly you can get involved with Dear Grizz and Tizz by tweeting us at Downtown Ball. Very much worth a follow. We've got a very interesting podcast coming up this weekend.
Exclusive.
We might just keep under wraps.
A bit like a current affair.
Exactly who it is, but a big name guest, a future star of Australian hoops. So stay tuned to that podcast dropping over the weekend. Is probably the plan at this stage. And that pretty much wraps it up. Fellas, it's been a pleasure in front of the cameras this evening. We've been dialing it in from way downtown.
The lights are much brighter.